Okay, are we live? Is this thing on? Awesome. Hello there, and welcome to another SWTVC live stream. If you're a Star Wars 3¾ inch fan and the wonderful social media algorithms still somehow haven't shown you anything over the last couple of months, TVC March Madness 2024 is in full swing. Oh, by the way, I'm Evan. Good to see you all. Thanks for being here. Looks like we've got some awesome viewers in here. I am joined by some guests. They're in the waiting room at the moment. I will pull them in just one sec. Real quick, though, just where we're at. We're 2 weeks into March Madness. Great. If you still don't know what March Madness is, I'd recommend you check out our previous live streams on the subject over the last 4 years and visit our page over on Instagram, which is at SWTVC, if that wasn't already self-explanatory to find out. But here is just the quick obligatory summary. TVC March Madness is a community-wide fan polling event where we gather wish lists in January, do all the fun and exciting math to figure out how many points characters have, then place the top 64 on an elimination bracket that places characters head to head. All of this is just using community wants to gauge general priorities and interests that us fans of TVC would like to see for our beloved line. This has no official affiliation with Hasbro, but we do know they are watching events such as these and like Last Figure Standing, and it's a great way to kind of rally together and make your voice heard. Anyway, enough about all of that. We'll be diving back into recapping the first couple weeks of the year's tournament shortly. But first, I'd like to introduce my fellow collectors that are joining me today. First up is my SWTVC teammate. It's the Space Hut himself, Lewis. How's it going, man?
How you doing? You all right? Hello, everyone.
I'm doing all right. We're also joined, we're lucky enough to be joined by the host of such shows as the Vintage Collection Podcast, Cantina Chatter, and her Cantina Social Hour. It is Victoria of Victoria's Cantina. How you doing, Victoria?
Hello. Hi, Evan. Hi, Lewis. How's it going, everybody? Good to see you.
And then lastly, rounding out our little panel today, it is first-time guest on the show. You've probably seen his awesome figure reviews and videos right here on YouTube, plus his excellent photography on Instagram. It is Toys Are the Way. How you doing, bud?
Hello there. How's it going?
It's going, man. So yes, let's go around the room. You know, it's a new year. Seeing some of you guys for the first time this year, it's great. What's new with you guys? Let's start with you, Toys Are the Way. How's life treating you?
It's going pretty good. Can't complain. Just waiting to see if I get some new TVC sometime soon.
Someday, right?
Someday.
Would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself? I know I can't imagine anyone watching this isn't already familiar with you, but maybe just a little bit of where they can find you and what you do.
Just a simple collector making their way through the galaxy. You can find me on YouTube. Got a channel, do reviews, posing videos, diorama stuff, and then of course on Instagram, where that's where most of my photography is, and some concept art stuff.
Nice. Yes, everybody, if you're not already, please follow him. He's amazing. So I love all your stuff. I watch all your videos, man. So
thanks, man. Appreciate it.
And then Victoria, again, it goes without saying, you're a legend of TVC. Everyone in this community knows you. They all love you. But where can folks find you? And what have you been up to lately? I know you just did a show with Steve Evans. Actually, he was on Cantina Social Hour recently.
Yeah, no, thank you for the introduction, and it's great to be here, and appreciate everybody that's hanging out with us in the chat. No, totally, yeah. So we did Cantina Social Hour 2 weeks ago with Steve, and he was awesome to have on, of course, and fun chat as always. And yeah, it was a good old time. So that is on the VC channel. We do Cantina Social Hour every Fridays. It's my favorite thing to do because it's just a blast and it's live and anything can happen. Like last night, I had things freezing up, and it's fun because it adds to the fact that it's live. And right now I'm working on what's called the TVC series. Get it? And it's just it's a weekly series of different TVC related topics, and we published the first one yesterday. So that is out. Other than that, I'm just here hanging out with my toys. I'm just playing with my new toys, and I'm having a great old time. So I really can't complain too much. I've got new toys, and that's always makes me happy to have new toys.
That's actually awesome to see those, because Lewis was just showing us his Dooku before. That sounds bad. He was showing us the Dooku action figure he just got before we went live. And, we usually do mail call on the SWTVC live streams and shows. So it looks like you guys are starting to get the quote unquote new wave, which is a fan channel wave First new product of the year, which middle of March.
Crazy.
And it looks to be the only new product we'll be getting for a while, when really only one of the things in that wave is actually new. But whatever, it all looks cool. Have you guys been enjoying those? I know, Lewis, you were spending yesterday shooting a reel.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, this Dooku, it's amazing. And when you talk about new figures and new sculpts, this is what a figure should be. You know, this is what a TVC should be, and I think that's that was Jason. And yeah, I do be honest, just spending yesterday playing around with it, it's a fantastic figure. Love it.
Yeah. And Victoria, where did you get yours from?
Entertainment Earth.
Okay, and those showed up this week.
They showed up yesterday. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
And it's funny because they first solicited them as a case of 4, right?
Mhm.
And then they went back and added a link, I guess, later for a case of 8. I ordered 2 cases of 4 because this was before the case of 8, and then they shipped them in 1 case of 8. So it was just interesting how that happened.
Interesting. Did they show up? Just to ask, since I saw you still had them carded, do they still have kind of the bubble scuff issue? Have you noticed any of that on this round?
Bubble scuff. No, they're none of that, but and no, rings of death.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, every single figure had some damage on it. Whether it's like dings in the bubble or creases in the card, every single one had damage, but the outer carton was fine. So this had to have happened at the factory. I already told Entertainment Earth, and they're sending some replacements. So no big deal, but it is interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was saying to the guys, actually, I got mine from Star Action Figures over here, and they actually posted on Facebook that these are the best figures they've seen in the last 5 years in terms of quality. I think they pulled a few, some very minor amount that they sort of pulled out and put to one side. But I think otherwise, across the board, the condition of them apparently is, better than it's been in ages. So, yeah, whether we got all the good ones, perhaps, I don't know. Whether Entertainment Earth got some of the early ones. Yeah.
That's the only bad batch we'll get.
Yeah.
I know I have my pre-orders from Pulse and GameStop. I think I got charged for a couple. Toys of the Way, you did as well, correct?
Yeah, I think they're charging me for half of it, which is probably Finn and Cassian from
Yeah.
GameStop.
I think that's what my Pulse notifications were, is like, hey, remember those figures that you bought in 2016? Here you go again, bud.
Get ready.
And this time they're $17. So
Yes, I opened them again.
yeah.
And then I realized just how bad the legs are on that Finn. It took me about 20 minutes to get it to stand up. But,
Yeah.
He's not great.
yeah, the
I wanna-
Cassian's not terrible.
I want to moan about it, but like, I'm the guy who bought the Amazon Bad Batch set without the Bad Batch members with ballast in it, and I bought 2, so I have a carded and a loose of that. And then when they just redid them again with the proper name Pill Hauser, I bought him twice more, and another carded variant and an opener. So
So did I.
And they should have waited on releasing that because now he's like in the show more.
yeah.
with extra accessories as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they should have put him on the new clone body, if anything.
Yeah. Well, don't worry. Maybe they can take up another slot and do that instead of a wrecker or a tech or a crosshair.
One can only
I gotta say though, real quick, this Finn would be eons better if it had him holding the lightsaber on the card and it came with the lightsaber. Like I think a lot of people would have bought it in that case.
Thank you. I know Tyler and John have all made fun of me multiple times for saying such things. So Victoria, I'm in your corner. Thank you. So
It's not my favorite image. I think the lightsaber would have been way better.
dare I say iconic, but
Iconic.
But it is nice. It's nice to see him on a TVC card finally.
It is.
That's
For
that's
sure.
the benefit of that one.
well, real quick, I guess hello to everybody in the chat. We've got Ben Swallow Collector. Eric Lawson's here. Phil the Force. Hello. Daniel Georgie. Yes. Hello. And then I pulled up his comment earlier. Jason, middle-aged Kiwi man, is here. Got a lot of great folks in the chat today. Thanks for tuning in. I know it's a Saturday and 48-hour heads up. You all have better things to do, or do you? Thanks for being here with us. Appreciate it. All right. So before we jump into March Madness stuff, I think we'd be remiss to kind of not touch on the TVC reveals from earlier this week. So there's a new weekly merchandising reveal event, not necessarily weekly for Hasbro, but just all of the licensors. It's happening called Imperial March. As with many of these things, details are kind of fuzzy. We don't really know what to expect, but hey, we got figure reveals out of it. So that's cool. Spoiler alert, though, they're all Imperial themed. Who could have guessed? So anyway, the first thing up is Captain Enoch and Thrawn's Night Troopers. So yes, these were pipelined on October 28th at MCM London. If they're not sold out yet, I didn't check yet today. That means that our teammate Tyler is a big fat liar and has not bought all of them yet, like he said he would, or maybe he's just being polite and giving us all a chance to snag a couple before he buys a few shipping containers worth. So yes. Any thoughts on these, you guys? I know I've got some images here.
Brilliant.
Yeah, man.
So good.
Yeah.
I mean, if Enoch wasn't in there, of course, this would be perfect. But
I'm glad you
Still
mentioned
great.
that. Emily from Hasbro, she commented, or no, she posted about it in her story on Instagram, that, you know, they've heard the feedback about named or specific characters in these army packs, and it kind of sounds like that's something that they know just doesn't work for these. So hopefully moving forward, we're going away from that. So that's some good happy beeps.
Yeah. I think she said grunts are going to be like the focus now.
Yeah. I mean, I know we've talked about it to death with commanding officers and all that, but
yeah.
These, I think these look great. I was trying to kind of temper my expectations about it, but I was shocked, and in a good way, that they, you know, actually sculpted the wrapping and all that. It wasn't just painted wrapping, which I was kind of fearful of, but yeah. And
I was curious how they're going to pull that off, and they just nailed it. It looks so good.
Same. Also, shout out to was it Shooting the Galaxy that posted these, that he shot these product photos for this round, and they look fantastic. So
Brilliant
I like
job.
it.
Those are good.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, very excited about those. I always, anything Stormtrooper I love anyway, but yeah, I've ordered quite a few of these, and Pulse in the UK unfortunately restricted us to 3 each.
yeah.
So I had to do a second account to get another 3, and then we have a channel called The Whole Shebang, which they're great guys. They do a really good service, and they've managed to get hold of them, and no limits. So I bought another 10. So I'm down for 16 at the moment.
Okay.
And,
All right.
But I will say that my only defense on that is Tyler has still ordered more. So
I was going to say, Tyler found out, he fell on the sword and found out that the order limit on Pulse was 20 sets. So.
But when I told him he could set another account up and go and get some more, I think he was tempted. So I dread to think how many he's got to. But,
yeah. God bless him.
It's going to be a lot of Enochs.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think with the 212, so I did hold back. I didn't want loads of waxers, but with these, I'm just accepting that I'm going to have a whole load of Enochs, and, you know, be damned.
The nice thing is other than the skirt and the helmet, it looks like you could probably get away with using a lot of the parts from Enochs if you have spare leftover ones to mix and match with some of the other Stormtroopers. So not a total waste.
And we were saying, I think the other day, wasn't it, about the heads that come with Boba? Could be a good match for that. I think even a remnant Stormtrooper possibly could work on it.
A little dirtied up. Yeah, I dig it. Next up on the reveals, we got Darth Vader, A New Hope. This is one of the oldest pipelines currently in the pipeline, one of the oldest ones. August 29th on a Pulse fan stream. That's a little while ago, I think. But what is time? So yes, Victoria, we actually briefly chatted about this the other night. One of them has since been addressed by Steve Evans on Instagram. You were concerned about the red lenses and the lightsaber.
Yeah. This is an interesting figure. Because as we know, this was released before on this card. So I kind of wonder, why didn't they reuse the number? Is that something we're going to see going forward, where we see older releases on the same cards but with new numbers? It's kind of new territory, so it's a very interesting release. But yeah, the lenses did not appear red at all in the published photos that were sent out. So that was a concern. And yeah, Steve said that he showed the kind of the picture where they do look slightly red. I think at this scale, you know, they kind of need to be a little more bold to be noticeable. Yeah. But yeah, the lightsaber is the Rogue One / the Empire Strikes Back hilt, and not the A New Hope hilt. So I don't know if that's going to be addressed, but just one of those nitpicks. You know, we wouldn't be collectors if we weren't finding little things to nitpick.
There's always got to be something, you know.
It's always something.
Yeah.
You know, I kind of go back to, I think, was it John Miko when he was talking to Chris Rife? They were talking about the Salacious Crumb thing of new figure, new card. So since this is not the VC93 Vader figure, it's the newer Vader super sculpt, essentially. That I think that makes sense, but yeah, I get you. I feel that. I noticed a few other people have mentioned that, oh man, it's the same Vader image again. But at the same time, it's a definitive version of one of the original 12 on that original looking card back. So
yeah, other than the head not having like a dull spray on it, like it was for 90% of the movie. That's the only other thing I can say about it, but it looks great.
Yeah, I love it. So, all right. And then last reveal was a thing we already have, the Stormtrooper VC231. This was also pipelined on August 29th. Straight reissue of VC231, which was a Walmart exclusive that Walmart refused to actually sell. It was online only for whatever reason, and fan channels began carrying it a few months after Walmart was done screwing up the distribution. To me, it's kind of weird when you think about it that with the rocker ankles and everything, the definitive Stormtrooper actually really has never been sold at mass retail in the US, not at brick and mortar, because it's always been exclusives or deluxe sets and usually Walmart that for some reason won't put them on pegs. So, but maybe that's just me being a little weirded out about that. But what do you guys think about this thing that I'm sure there's not much to say since we already know?
Pretty perfect. I think my only gripe is the rifle still is the one from like Rogue One with the flashlight.
Yeah.
And what's funny is the Night Troopers actually have the standard non-flashlight rifle. So I'm kind of curious, like they're both kind of in production maybe at the same time. You would think they could just use the same rifle.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I hadn't even thought about that. But yeah, so.
Yeah, I mean, I bought a few more cases just because I buy Stormtroopers whenever I can. And if they're coming back at retail price, I'm picking them up because at the moment, the only way you can get them is to pay that bit extra. But it's worth mentioning that the cards, they have moved the warning logo for any of those carded collectors out there is now down the bottom so that we can see the Hildebrand logos. So again, I actually collect Stormtroopers on cards. It's the only thing I do collect on cards. So for me, this is a double bonus for me. So I've got a new card and extra Stormtroopers. So can't argue.
Yeah, I feel that.
It'll also have the new back of the card as well for those who care about that, like me. So, all right. Well, those were the reveals. So much fun, isn't it? Let's get back to, speaking of fun, March Madness. But actually, nope. I jumped the gun there. There is actually going to be some more reveals coming soon. Apparently, Hasbro revealed yesterday that they will be doing an Imperial March fan stream on Wednesday, March 20th at 11 a.m. Eastern time. So, curious to see what else is coming for us. Hopefully, stuff is coming for us. So,
could be the whole 64 off the bracket.
Yes. As we all know, if it's not every figure we've ever wanted on this one stream, we riot. So. All right, now we jump into the fun stuff. This is where the fun begins or continues. March Madness. So let's see. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out where all my images are here. Add this back. All right, so voting began on March Madness with the round of 64. The Northwest Quadrant was on March 6th. Round 2 was Friday, March 8th. Round 3 was Monday, March 11th. And round 4 was March 13th. So that was all 4 corners of the round of 64. So let's kind of look and see how those days shook out. There was only one upset on the first day, and it was the Senate himself, Sheev Palpatine, defeating Dryden Voss, who, Lewis, I know was your number 1 going in.
Yeah. I blame Bosk's Bounty live stream for that one because he won it. We all know Dryden went on and won it. And I think there was a backlash. I think people deliberately voted against him, but no, he had his moment in the sun, and I'm glad that at least he had that time to shine. But sadly went out. I'm not sad about him losing to Palpatine. I think that's a figure we desperately need. So
yeah, the one we have, I think we've mentioned before. It's essentially just a salt and pepper shaker. It's got like the arm swivel and then the little legs on the bottom that you set him down and he swings the lightsaber around for a sec. Anakin's lightsaber, no less, because that was when they were developing toys ahead of time. And so they'd, instead of being reactive, they'd make things that maybe had some things that were left on the cutting room floor. Are any of these from this first day of voting, anything kind of surprise you guys or stick out to you?
Omega got crushed by Crosshair.
They're pals in the show now, but apparently that was not enough.
Not enough.
I think
Crosshair is
that's one
definitely
of those.
wanted.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think everyone probably wants both, but if you've got to pick one, I think he's the action figure out of the two, really, isn't he?
He's also an
I went
original
Omega.
Bad Batch member.
Yeah.
And, I think, and what you just said, Lewis, of the two in the head-to-head, it's, with all of these matchups, like everything on the bracket, obviously it's there for a reason. There is some demand there. People do want these. So the whole thing, and I think it bears repeating with these matchups and with the tournament itself, it's not necessarily what don't you want. It's not, if Hasbro only made one more figure ever, what do you want? Like, what do you want to vote against? It's like, we want them both. You want them all, but which of the two, if they were to make both, which one would you prefer they focus on making first? So, if I'm not out of line saying that, I hope. But
I mean, Balin had a huge lead there, didn't he, against the Rebel Commando? Which I suppose you're looking at number 1 seed against number 64 in the bracket, so perhaps that's to be expected. But I think he's getting a lot of support this year.
Definitely. He was one of the finalists of Last Figure Standing. Forgive me, as you all have noticed, our wonderful encyclopedic, The Vintage Concepts, John is not here, the numbers guy, the data guy. So I don't have everything he has in front of me. Although if you do see him popping in the comments, definitely harass him for any information. Sorry, John. Love you, bud. So I know I think all of the Last Figure Standing finalists made it into the bracket, if I'm not mistaken. I also could go back and watch our live streams and whatever and find that out myself. I won't do that though. So I don't watch things that I'm on. Anything else on day 1 or move on to day 2? Move on to day 2 it is.
Move along.
All right.
Old news, Evan. Old news.
Old news. Well, we're continuing the old news for a second. This is the day that Victoria, my heart wept for you when I saw the numbers coming in. I was like, oh no. It was not time for Tonica this year. However, this was their 4th appearance on the bracket. They won Last Figure Standing. So if it's not clear to Hasbro at this point that there is an absurd demand for those two, I don't know what else to do. But yeah, I know you've been a huge champion for that. But yeah, any surprises or other than, of course, being surprised that it wasn't time for Tonica, any surprises or thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not incredibly surprised that they lost. And when you this is different than like Last Figure Standing where you're narrowing it down, and then with here you see 2 side by side, and then you're looking at them and it's like, well, shoot, Jedi Temple Guard is pretty, appetizing
cool
as well. And I think there's other factors as well that kind of played in this case, but I mean, that's a tough call to make. I mean, I'd love to see both of these happen, and 667 ain't terrible, like
no.
In the grand scheme of things. And you look at some of the other numbers, like 473 Dash Rendar, right? So
yeah,
I was about to say Dash Rendar.
Yeah, there have been quite a few splits that are like 60-40 in that range. There's been only a handful of incredibly decisive victories here. Yeah. So it really kind of goes to show that yes, I think the demand is there for both. In a perfect world, we wouldn't have to be asking for many of these things, but alas, this is where we're at. I actually was a little surprised that 2 Tubes bested the Imperial Armored Commando, since that's like, a troop builder. It's fairly new, but also people love 2 Tubes, man.
Yeah, he's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I was hoping the Tonicas would get through with 2 Tubes, and then we'd have the Battle of the Twins as the next round.
Yeah, it's a cheap way to get 4 figures in. So
yeah, it just didn't happen. But no, I think I can see it. I mean, as Victoria was saying, I think people do, because of things like Last Figure Standing, they've had their time, and I think people tend to lean away from that a bit as well, where they kind of think, okay, we've had them now as a winner. Let's push for something different. And I think it goes against them. As I say, same as Dryden, joking with earlier. But I do think that we are seeing that with even some of the other figures or characters, should I say, that have gone out, that you sort of look at and thinking perhaps last year they would have done much better. But I think it's just that people like to lean into certain things and try and get behind certain things. And so they've had their moment. Hasbro know we need them. So
yeah. I laughed in this one when we, debuted the bracket of just the way that the numbers fell, that it ended up being a nice little marital spat between Anakin and Padme, where we very much need both of them. That was tough. But weirdly enough, I actually did expect that to be a little bit more of a decisive win. I mean, obviously 944 to 596 is decisive, but I'm really glad to see that there's a lot more support for Padme than I initially thought there would be. All right. So the next day was the northeast round. Sorry, we use directions like this is a real sports like conference thing. The upper right side of the bracket, please. This is where we started getting, the OT heavy hitter, Luke Skywalker, obviously. There were a couple upsets here today. The closest one being Keller and Beck, winning by 4.
Yeah,
that's
4
crazy.
votes.
Crazy.
Wild.
I was watching that all day, kind of on and off because I, turn off the link. March Madness is what I also like to call the reason I haven't seen Dune 2 yet, because I have to manually flip the switch at 10 p.m. every night, my time. And usually nighttime is the only time I can watch movies. So I'll wait till April. You're welcome. But yeah, Kelleran actually led, I think, Hammerhead the whole day, and it kind of oscillated. I don't think the spread ever got greater than 20 points between the two. So that was really neck and neck. But anything on these results kind of shock you guys or raise an eyebrow?
One thing for me, and Luke obviously won, but I'm surprised that Newt Gunray got as high as he did.
Yeah, first time on the bracket. Galagus Rax picks. Shout out to that guy for being way into the Nemoidian stuff and being a huge champion for them. But Newt from Mustafar is one of those few prequel figures that even when Hasbro was making literally everything they could, that was one they didn't make. So. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you're seeing people as well again saying, "Oh, everyone knows we need a Luke. Hasbro know we need a Luke." And I know you should never assume anything because we know, we've waited long enough for some of these figures. But I think people do think that way sometimes, and so again, people lean away from it. And okay, he got enough to get a decent victory there still anyway. But I can see that's where people were just going the opposite direction. And I think, again, probably with Hammerhead as well. I mean, he had his success in the last figure standing. And I think Keller and Beck is one of those figures or one of those characters that people would get behind to get a figure of because of the Ahmed Best thing and just, the character itself anyway is great. And so I think it gave people a chance to jump on something new and sort of just, let's push for something other than Hammerhead. But that was close still anyway. But yeah, I think that's where he just snagged it for that reason.
Yeah.
It's like Hammerhead's like a very given figure. Like we shouldn't have to tell Hasbro, like, we need a Hammerhead in the vintage collection. Yeah. Keller and Beck, they probably need a little bit of pushing to be like, oh, people actually want that. Okay.
Yeah.
So I can kind of see people kind of rallying for Kelleran. Pretty surprised with the Plo Koon Malik. I know Plo Koon is very loved and I actually like Plo Koon, but I thought maybe with like some of the Revan figures that we have now that people would be kind of energized for a Malik.
Yeah.
So I thought he was going to take
I was surprised at that. Yeah.
I was thinking it was going to be probably an easy win for Malik. So
yeah, but that's cool. We could use a better Plo Koon for sure.
Looking at things like Peli and the client, where we talk about making main characters instead of background stuff or tertiary. They edged out. Peli beat Fozek and the client beat Shasatil, things that would really complement, the OT world building. But these are things too, like Peli and the client support big purchases we've made recently for new and current media, like The Mandalorian, where it's like, we have a Razor Crest, we have the N1, we have the Navarro Cantina, we have a bunch of Mandalorians, we got a bunch of Grogu, we got the Stormtroopers for the client. So it's kind of like, all right, we're just missing these sort of centerpieces, like these very key puzzle pieces for things that Hasbro's already asked us to spend a lot of money on. And it's a little frustrating, especially in the case of the client, which exists in 6-inch, and 6-inch collectors kind of seem to universally reject like that. Hit clearance almost instantly. It was one that's just kind of peg warming, which was a bummer. I hope that doesn't send the message to Hasbro of, nobody wants it. it's very much, while there's a lot of overlap in 6-inch collectors and TVC collectors, there are also some very different circumstances, I think, that Hasbro needs to be able to make informed sort of decisions on and be aware of when it comes to how we collect.
I'll say the client seems like it's going to be one of those situations similar to the Tantive 4, where we were like, we need a new Leia. The ones we have are awful. Hasbro, come on, we need to complete this set.
Yeah.
Now we have a Cantina and no client.
Yeah.
And that season's like so far in the past where it's like, come on, man, where's my client?
It's almost 5 years ago that we saw that scene, and then we got the play set 2-3 years ago.
Crazy.
And yeah, like the Tantive. I'm not getting into this. John isn't here to yell at me. Whatever. Was that 2020 that showed up that we got that, and now we've got
Leia. Means nothing to me anymore.
Yeah,
probably was. Yeah.
Trust me, the last 4 years of my life feel like both 2 decades and 3 weeks. But yeah, we've got Leia pipelined. We still haven't seen what that figure looks like. She was pipelined back in August. So that would be 5 years between playset and the figure that goes in the playset. It's
a long stretch.
Yeah.
As long as I get it right, I'm happy to wait. That's the important thing.
It's all an exercise in patience, isn't it?
I mean, on that point, it's like, we got a throne room now. How long do we have to wait for FOSEC,
Yeah.
Yeah. The only scary thing I would say is that, like, the further away it gets from the content, like, in this case, The Mandalorian, but whether it be like Bad Batch or Book of Boba Fett, I think the further away we get in time with more shows coming, I think some of those characters get less likely. So I think that, unfortunately, that's the only thing we kind of really have against some of these actually happening at some point.
Yeah.
But we definitely need Peli Motto and the client, 100%.
And that really just leans into the whole thing of, we want more. Guys, Hasbro, expand the budget, man. We're hungry for stuff. It's hard to piecemeal. It's hard to play this waiting game and watch things slide in the rear view. But yeah. Luckily they like to celebrate anniversaries now, not as much for TVC, but they made an honest go of it for Return of the Jedi, at least, which was encouraging after shutting us out completely for the last couple anniversaries, pretty much. But let's go
just quickly. One thing I would say as well, it's nice to see some of those teams, people supporting those teams as well. So we're seeing the Rogue One crew guys going through there.
Bodhi and Baze, yes.
You're seeing a lot of those. Again, I think the client and Peli, they probably lump into that. It's a lot of these complete the crews, complete themes and teams, and I think that
makes the mains.
Some of these others drop away a little bit again, just because, they might be nice in the background, but they don't quite complete that set in the same way.
Yeah. Well, let's jump to the final day of the round of 64. There were no upsets whatsoever. It was all pretty straightforward with how the rankings were. I think there was not anything really close except for Revenge of the Sith Obi-Wan and the Fifth Brother Inquisitor. So, yeah, pretty straightforward voting there. Poor little Leia.
Yeah, just gonna say.
Yeah, Luthen, she stood no chance.
No.
Still need her.
I still do.
Yeah.
I will continue to champion for that figure, for many of these figures, for all figures essentially. But yes, that's one that I do really love. Lewis, what you were kind of just saying, it's nice to see some of these background ones where, and Victoria, I think you touched on this as well too, with Last Figure Standing, of whittling it down of, what would be the more interesting action figure. We saw a lot of these backgrounders, OT or otherwise, really get knocked out in this first round. So they made the bracket. People want them. We're talking about them. It's fun. But they did get knocked out because they were usually knocked out by another heavy hitter that's like a main character that's either never been made or their last definitive quote unquote update was 20 years ago and that no longer stands. So it really seems that maybe the differentiating factor between this tournament and the LFS tournament of, people are really getting antsy about things that seem obvious, that, we want to build the main part of the world and the supplementing it with the other cool stuff, which we also want is the secondary priority. I mean, what good does, a FOSEC do if you never made a Jabba the Hutt? So,
right.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think you're seeing figures like the Bad Batch. I mean, they're still doing well. They're a team that we have Hunter and that's it. So we need those. And I think people have given Hasbro a little bit the benefit of the doubt perhaps in previous years. They've made the brackets, but I don't think they've had that support. But we're seeing them get good wins at the moment, and I think again that people are sort of, like you say, I think people just had enough of like, no, let's make this known that we want these figures. We want to get this stuff completed.
Yeah. Bad Batch is like now or never. Come on, make that bigger. Exactly. I mean, same goes for like Client and some of those other characters we mentioned. It's like now or never. Come on.
Yeah. A complete 3-season run of a show based on characters that were officially debuted in 2020, but we saw them in 10 years before that, like 2013, 14, 15, somewhere in there, in those animatic reels. It's crazy that these main characters, just for an entire thing that people are generally liking, and then especially with a huge clone focused subset of collectors, it really just blows my mind. So yeah, other than Omega, the whole batch made it easily through that first round of 64.
Yeah.
And can we just have a moment silence for Ben Solo?
It was his fourth time on the bracket too. So you know what? I'll take solace in that. And he beat Simalu last year. Aha, sorry, John. But yeah, bring me Ben Solo. I'll keep banging the drum on that one. And both his appearances from that movie, the Supreme Leader Kylo Ren also went out that round. Granted, he was going up against Han Solo, and Han Solo was ready this time, a little younger and with a better blaster. So.
And Saw Gerrera absolutely wiped the floor with Ben Solo, really, didn't he? But again, he's a figure that's really missing, in any form. I mean, there's so many versions of Saw Gerrera, but it's a decent articulated one.
Yeah, I think so. On the bracket, I've seen the question of which Saw Gerrera is it? We've got all the photos of the matchups on Instagram. We post those every day that the matchups go up. In the voting thing, it's the photo we defaulted to, and I think John can speak to this more, and he has spoken to this more. If you want more on that, go to the bracket reveal live stream. But I believe this is the Rogue One look for Saw, but it kind of leads to a couple other looks, and since there are some similarities between them. But yes, the character himself, very much want him. Do not be Hasbro. Do not be put off by the fact that 6-inch collectors didn't buy him. We want him. So. But yeah, all right. So that was the round of 64. Yesterday saw the round of 32. So the second round exactly kicked off. And we haven't shown the results of that yet, but I will be posting them to Instagram after this stream. But here they are. So there was one upset yesterday. This was yesterday. Balin sleepwalked through Mon Mothma that matchup. We mentioned it earlier, Balin has a lot of support going through this. It's another one that's like, it's absurd that this is a character we even need to ask for, that it wasn't already like Hasbro being like, guys, he's coming. We're making him. Look at this. He's at least pipeline. We're doing it. We know you loved him. It's like, okay. So, but yes, the Crosshair versus Dedra, Dedra would be a great super sculpt for a female Imperial officer. And yet people really want that Bad Batch, guys. So, the closest match of the day yesterday was, I'm pointing because my mind is blanking, the Snow Trooper, or sorry, Imperial Stormtrooper, cold weather gear, or whatever, Hoth battle gear, beat the Second Sister Inquisitor by a small amount of votes. That was incredibly.
That Snow Trooper's taken out 2 Inquisitors now, then, because it took out Marok.
Yes.
Oh, really?
So interesting.
I always knew the Snow Troopers were the coolest Imperial Trooper, and yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, and we lost Palpatine to an OT main character. Makes sense. People want the OT mains. We're coming up. It's upsetting how close we are to the 50th anniversary of Star Wars. I try not to think about that too much, but it does keep me up at night. Here we are. Anakin actually had a little bit more difficulty than I thought he would, clearing Moff Gideon in his Dark Trooper disguise, but he the chosen one managed to stay in there.
I mean, that Dark Trooper is pretty cool.
It is, yeah. I want both of these real bad. So.
Yeah, that was a tough choice.
But yeah, any shock or confusion or surprise on any of these results?
I think the Jedi Temple Guards are not shocked. I was saying from the beginning, I think a few of us watched them because they're going to do well. They do every year, and they get really good support. You can't even buy the 5 POA one for less than I don't know $150 or whatever it is. It goes for insane amounts, and it's and people would buy multiples of them. So it's one of those that the Clone Wars guys out there get behind every year, and I could see it again doing well this year.
Yeah. They're also in Rebels.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm surprised by that one. I figured that would be a closer matchup just because that ATA driver is definitely needed. It's a part of the finish 96,
Yeah, and I think it kind of goes back to Victoria, what you were saying about the Tonica's up against the Jedi Temple Guard as well. It's like you've got a figure that's important and that you really want and hits that OT beat, but then you've got something that is very toyetic and very puts the action in action figure. So it's kind of hard to like, okay, this would be a really cool thing too. So
right, but yeah, no, I mean, I think these kind of are more or less how I would have expected would have gone.
Yeah.
But I just will reiterate what you said about, Dedra, like doing a female Imperial officer, you could get Admiral Price, you could get Juno Eclipse. Like there's a lot of stuff you could do with that. So I hope that that's something that's at least on their radar.
Yeah. Ray Sloan, Natasi Dalla, is Isane Isard, however you say that. Legends is whack. I love it. Yeah. So, sorry, spoiler alert. Anyway, we're jumping into Monday. So Monday voting begins at 12:01 a.m. Eastern time. So voting for March Madness is every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. It's 24 hours. It's 12:01 a.m. Eastern time, which is 10 o'clock Mountain time, my time. Again, why I haven't seen Dune. So it's 24 hours. You got 24 hours to vote in these matchups. The link is the same every time. It is in our bio on Instagram. We make sure to post it, in the stories. It's up there. It's not changing on you. Just go to the same place every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday to vote. The matchups on Monday begin with Luke Skywalker versus Plo Koon. So who do you guys are going to take? Who do you guys think is going to take this one?
Plo Koon, no.
I don't know. Luke is probably going to take it, but I kind of see this being a little bit of a close match. People seemed pretty excited for Plo Koon.
Yeah.
It's difficult. We've got figures of both. We desperately need that Luke, though, don't we? So
we do.
If he doesn't win, I'll be very surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to lose.
I think I have Luke advancing on my bracket as well. I do really want Plo as well, but I think Luke's going to take it. Then the next matchup is Peli versus Pong Krell. What do you guys think of this one?
Brutal. Yeah, I want both of those.
Same.
But I'll probably have to go with Pong Krell.
Yeah.
Pong's on my top 25, so he'd have to be my choice as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd go Peli.
Okay.
Nice.
I think I went Peli as well. Although I do really think Pong is going to take it.
He's been on the brackets many, many times.
Yeah, I think he's another 4-timer, if I'm not mistaken. So.
Yeah.
All right, Kelleran versus Bodhi. This one breaks my heart. They're both in my top 25. I love them both so much. I had to go for Kelleran, even though I've been hollering for Bodhi for years. So
I feel like Bodhi's probably going to take it just because we're so tired of waiting to finish that Rogue One crew.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a tough one, that, because again, I normally vote based on, do we have this figure at all or not? And obviously we have a Bodhi. Do we have a Bodhi? I mean, he's 5p away. I know Tyler will say 5p away is not okay. But if I have to choose between one or, I don't have a Kelleran at all. So I feel that that's probably the way I'll vote. But actually it hurts just to even say that because I really want that Bodhi. So yeah. I've made my mind up on that one yet.
That was brutal.
Yeah, that's the heartbreakers keep just coming, and it's only going to get more difficult as we whittle down the field. So the next one is the Client versus Baze.
Same again.
You guys gonna stick with that logic and think Baze is going to take it?
I don't know.
The Client's number 2 on my list. I've got to back the Client. He's my next one to get. But I wouldn't want to call it.
Yeah, this is a tough one. I think I'm going to go for Baze, but
same.
Again, want both. Next one.
That's also challenging.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like, Shin is up there with Balin and being one of those like, come on, this is so obvious. Why are you even thinking about waiting on this one, guys? Like, why is this a wait for us, for Shin? But Savage also, man, you can't underestimate him. He's been, multiple appearances on the bracket. We do have the animated version that is at least better than 5 POA, but I don't know. What do you guys think?
Definitely need that figure. It would go great with our Pre-Vizsla Maul.
Yeah.
But I definitely think Shin's going to take this one. There's just a lot of hype around her and Balin.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think if you want Balin, you kind of need them as a set together.
Yeah.
I mean, I love how Hot Toys did it. They announced both together.
Yeah.
I hope that Hasbro, when the time comes, does the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's been winning pretty convincingly so far, hasn't she? So again, I mean, Savage gets some good support, but I just can't see him pulling it off. But
yeah,
again, they're getting harder. They're getting harder to call. They're getting harder to make decisions on.
Yeah, that's the whole point. We don't want you to feel comfortable and secure in your choices. You got to be on the edge of your seat. All right, here we go. Rogue One crew versus Bad Batch.
I think
this is where we start to see. Yeah, it's where we start to see if the Bad Batch are going to stand up or not.
Yeah,
I think they will. I think Tech will win it.
Pour one out for poor Tech. R.I.P.
Yeah. Oh boy, Victoria.
Yeah. I think so too. I think it's going to be Tech.
Okay, interesting. I think it's going to be Saw, but
interesting.
We'll see. All right, and then an OT versus the Bad Batch.
That's really hard.
Yeah. That is hard. Yeah, that's very hard.
People have been wanting an actually well-made Han Solo for quite some time now.
We got so close and didn't get there.
Close, especially this version.
Yeah.
But again, Bad Batch is in a state of chaos, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't even. Again, I'm not even sure I'm going to vote on that one. But yeah.
You have to. But yeah.
I have to.
I'm going with Echo. I mean, I'm putting a lot of my support for Bad Batch. It's just like ridiculous at this point that we don't have that.
I do think, again, we can't take anything for granted. Literally nothing is a foregone conclusion. Even the most beloved characters of all time are not a guarantee when it comes to how Hasbro handles the vintage collection anymore. But I do think if you were to show me these two like this, I would say, oh, they couldn't not make a Han Solo eventually. Whereas with the Bad Batch, they seem to not care about skipping it whatsoever. And they've mentioned that the onus is on us to tell them that we want them. And it's like, okay, we do. So
yeah, that's the logic kind of sits a little strangely with me. I mean, because it's like, go back to like the Phantom Menace. So logic's on you to tell us that you want Darth Maul. I mean, in some characters you just do, right? I mean, this is like it's really missing the boat too, because the Bad Batch, this is its final season. It's like the current like media thing in Star Wars, and it's firing on all cylinders right now. If you ask me, I'm loving it. It's excellent, and there's not even anything pipeline like Hunter. I always say this on Social Hour. Yeah, I don't even have him on display because there's nowhere to put him. Yeah, like by the time they pipeline these guys, it's still going to be a 6 to 8 month wait till they actually like arrive in our collections, right? If not longer. Well, it could be even 6 to 8 months of it sitting in the pipeline before it's even revealed. So for sure. So yeah. Oh well. Sorry. Yeah. Dantooine. Is there an echo in here? All right. And then let's see who else we got. Oh boy, this one hurts my heart. I get it. We have an Obi-Wan, but it's very much like Han. The last one we got was 20 years ago. The vintage collection Obi-Wan from Revenge of the Sith also dates back to 2005. Like, that's not 2024 standards, man. And again, Jedi tooling, all that. But for more on that, listen to me talk about it literally any other time on this channel or on our podcast. What do you guys think? How do you think this one's going to shake out? I'm obviously gunning for Obi-Wan. But at the same time, dude, Luthen is so awesome. It sucks. For me, it's Luthen. I mean, again, he was in my top 5. He's an amazing character. I just think he deserves a figure. Again, one of those you sort of think, how have we not got a Luthen? Black Series have got one, and we've just been overlooked again. And so for me,
again, we don't have a Luthen at all. We do have Obi-Wans. I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
But for me, it's Luthen on this one.
Yeah. What's I've been seeing people post, it's another hashtag of the myriad hashtags out there. It was new before redo, I think is what people are saying. And that I absolutely, in my heart or in my brain, agree with that. In my heart, I do not agree. It's tough.
That's tough because we'd never get a redo, would we? I mean, we're
Yeah.
always going to be getting new figures, hopefully.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's hard, but yeah, I tend to follow that philosophy.
Yeah. It makes sense. So
yeah, I went with Obi-Wan on my bracket.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be close, and I think, you know, I think ultimately it's going to be Obi-Wan, though. I think, you know, there's a lot of interest in a renewed version from what I've seen. So I kind of feel like he's going to come out on top. But yeah, obviously we want both.
Yeah. Plus Revenge of the Sith, you know, this year they're celebrating as the 25th anniversary of the prequels, being the 25th of Phantom Menace. Next year is the 20th anniversary of Revenge of the Sith proper. So that would be a good time to do that. So yeah. But all right. This is the bracket. This is where we're at right now, how it all shakes up. So you'll see on the left side of the bracket, we've got some decisions made there of where the Sweet 16 is shaping up to be. Some heartbreaking matches coming up. Let's see if I can zoom in on these. So Balin and Crosshair is going to be a tough one. You know, Bad Batch versus the number one character running through. Snow Trooper versus Old Ben. Temple Guard versus Wrecker. Like, yeah. But these are going to be fun. It's going to be tough, man.
That's interesting. Wrecker against Temple Guard, because, well, again, it's the same as Ben and Snow Trooper. You've got generally the people that are going to back those are voting for probably two characters they want to see.
Yeah.
So you've got either, you know, your OT people backing those two. They've got to make a choice. And likewise, I would say most people that are going to back Bad Batch or Clone Wars characters, Rebels characters, probably similar collectors. So that's going to be interesting. Yeah, that's going to be the one to watch for me, I think, Wrecker and the Temple Guard.
Yeah. So, you know, I actually went, before we did this, I scrambled and looked. We all did top 25 lists, you know, back in January when we submitted them. And I was taking a look. 14 of my top 25 made the bracket. 8 of them are still in. Nice. Lewis, 16 of yours made the bracket. 6 are still in. Toys of the Way, 17 of yours made the bracket. Congrats, bud. 12 are still in.
Whoa.
Oh, doing well.
Not bad.
And Victoria, 18 of yours made the bracket and 11 are still in. So
wow,
pretty good. All right. Well, any final thoughts on March Madness or just general madness in life before we kind of wrap this up?
It's going to be madness for sure.
Yeah. Sweet.
Yeah, it's tough. It's getting tough. I think, I don't know, there's some interesting matchups still. I'm just looking down the list on the other side there. I mean, there's still some interesting matchups to come before we go back to that side again. But yeah, it's definitely getting harder.
Yeah. Yeah, man. It's been, as I said earlier, it's been heartbreaking a few times, but here we are. It's good. All right. Well, just on the screen right now is a little reminder of the voting. Again, I just am really trying to drive this home. We really, you know, would love for participation to be even better. We would love to see more people turn out to really get out there and let's show, you know, some actual numbers. It's great. I appreciate everybody that's gone out so far and voted. Again, huge thank you to everybody who submitted top 25 lists upon which March Madness was built. You know, thank you, John, for putting that all together, and, you know, everybody for making their voices heard there. It means a lot. It was the most successful top 25 data gathering we've had so far. Incredible amount of turnout for that. So let's keep it up for the tournament. Let's see if we can, you know, even keep getting more people engaged in voting. If you haven't voted yet, here are the instructions on the screen how. We try to make it easy for you guys. Also, you know, if you want to spread the word, please share the link, you know, let people know, clue people in. It's super helpful. Really appreciate it.
Make sure you remember what your Google login is, because we've had a lot of people saying that they haven't been able to vote because they can't remember how to log into Google.
Yes, yes. So
we did have to put that on because we did want to try and restrict people from multiple voting. So it was there for a reason. We aren't trying to make it difficult for people.
Yep. Just trying to stop ballot stuffing and all that. So But yeah, it's been good. All right. Well, let's wind this down. First off, all of you here, thank you in the comments for joining us and watching along with us, participating in March Madness in general. Lewis, thank you for being on the SWTVC team with me and doing this with me today, holding down the fort. Victoria, thank you so much for being here. Where can people find you? And you mentioned you were working on that TVC series. What do you got coming down the pipeline, and where should people go to follow you and subscribe to all of your stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks again, you guys, for having me on, and to everybody that's been hanging out with us, watching and in the chatting on the stream as well. Yeah, so TVC series, yesterday it was 5 figures that'll never be made, probably. And
are they on the bracket?
Yeah. And then the other one, I don't think any of them were in the bracket, but the other one coming next Friday is 5 vehicles that need to be brought back to TVC from the past.
Nice.
So every video for the next month is going to kind of focus on, just little topics within TVC, following along those lines. But yes, it is Victoria's Cantina anywhere. Perfect. All the socials, YouTube, obviously Perfect. The main thing, but everywhere.
Yeah. Sweet. And toys are the way. I think it's probably pretty obvious how people can find you, but yes, probably. Let us know. What are you up to?
I was actually working on editing a nice photo that I'm going to post probably when we're out of here. But yeah, you can find me at Toys of the Way, Instagram, and YouTube.
Awesome. Really appreciate you, man. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
And then Lewis, where can people find you?
I don't know, Instagram mostly.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously Space Hut. I still try to take photographs. I haven't had much time lately to do that, but that's my main goal. I've been working on a reel for the SWTVC page of this guy, so that should be dropping tomorrow, I think. So yeah, you'll probably see me commenting on that. But yeah, just same place as you, Evan, really.
Sweet. Yeah. Yeah, I can be found at SWTVC as well, or at Mile High Ground on Instagram, or just somewhere blowing around in the wind in the Great Plains of the United States. So that's where we're at. All right, gang. Thank you so much for joining us. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. Again, do not forget to spread the word and get out and vote in these next rounds of March Madness. Again, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 12:01 a.m. Eastern time. Voting ends at 11:59 p.m. Eastern time. So do it. You got a 24-hour window in there to do that. Make your voices heard. Shout out to everybody who is just participating. If you're watching this later, yes, thank you. All right.
And thanks to everyone else who's shared it as well. Obviously there's a lot of other pages out there who are sharing those votes and sharing the links. So thank you to everyone doing that.
Yeah. All right. If everybody, you 3 with me right here, hang on for a bit after we end the stream, we'll catch up a little bit. But for now, for everybody watching, that does it for another live stream from SWTVC. As always, keep 375 alive, have fun with March Madness, and may the Force be with you.